Now, Sway may not have all the answers, but I have a few. Hi everyone, and welcome to Shah Lusso, and welcome to another Q&A episode. When I did my video talking about the Omega Seamaster Necton and the Moser Streamliner and the Breitling Endurance Pro, at the beginning I asked you guys to leave your questions for a Q&A episode, and you guys actually left me quite a few questions. Such to the point that not only am I doing a Q&A episode already, but also I've actually had to split these up. You gave me too many to handle in one video, which is a very good problem to have. But needless to say that if I don't answer your question in this video, I will answer it in my next Q&A. But I wanted to split them up also so I can take the time to answer some of your questions in detail. And the questions I picked today all surround the same sort of themes of, like buying over retail, getting hard to get watches, and, watch flipping, all that sort of thing. They're all sort of interconnected, so I tried to also pick some questions that sort of followed a certain theme. So the first question is from H-Bomb. Interested in your thoughts on paying above retail for current production models. Appreciate it's just about the only way to get certain models, but I struggle with it. Interested in your thoughts for and against. Well, H-Bomb, I'm going to be honest. I'm right there with you. I'm pretty uncomfortable with the concept about it as well. So let's look at the for. The reason for paying above retail, most people will say it's supply and demand, but if you look at the watches that it's happening on, particularly Rolex, those people are full of shit. And I'm gonna be honest, because the watches are out there. They're not available at the ADs, but the units themselves, the actual watches, are out there and on the market. So there is no shortage of supply. Pretty much what has happened is that ADs have just turned into the new wholesale. Your retail is now the pre-owned market or the gray market. Now, when we talk about things like Richard Mille, for example, where they actually genuinely make a small amount of watches, there is more argument. But really, when we're talking about the reason why people pay more is because they don't want to wait. People hear a wait list of a year and they're like, no, I'll just pay more and get it sooner. That started with people hearing a wait list of a month, 2 months, 6 months. People's tolerance for waiting has gone down so much for some of these models. That's how they've managed to inflate the price so much. If you want a specific watch, you really want it, and you really need it now, then you must want it quite a lot. So in that sense, I'm all for it. At the end of the day in this hobby, I always talk about if you want something, get it. This is a hobby of passion, not about logic, and that's why we do stupid stuff in it. And those stupid decisions can sometimes turn out to be the best decisions. However, I do think there's a lot of very good reasons as to why you shouldn't be paying over retail, and a lot of that comes down to production as well. When we're talking about a current production model, again, bringing it back to supply and demand, the supply is technically infinite. In the watch world, a lot of models last for a long time. If you take the Submariner, for example, it was just replaced. Its predecessor was around for 10 years, 12 if you count the Smurf. So that's a long time to produce a lot of watches. Paying over retail, I'm 100% on board for discontinued models because now the supply is finite. In theory, enough owners will find these watches and keep them in their collection. The availability on the market will decline and decline versus when a watch is in production, the amount of watches in circulation is going to keep increasing because the company is making more. And the thing is that when you're talking current production models, at any point, the company making them can decide to ramp up production for a million reasons. Might be down to an economic downturn. If they know they have a hot watch and they need cash flow, bang, increase production. It might be because they found a more efficient way for them to make better margins by making more of these watches. Another reason to just increase production. So the notion of limited availability, in my view, doesn't apply to something that is current production. It's totally different when you're talking about limited editions, for example, where there's a finite amount, there will not be more, then I can understand it. So what should be your takeaway from this? Well, like I said earlier, if you really want it, and you can afford paying the premium, and you really want it and you can't wait, alright, then get it. But if you really like it, but you can wait a few months, I would say put yourself on a list. You lose nothing in putting yourself on a wait list. You'll never get that call from the AD if you're not on the list. So my recommendation to you, not knowing specifically which watch you're looking at, would be to put yourself on the list at as many ADs as possible, build relationships with those ADs, and just wait. We got into this situation with hyped watches because of people not having the patience. In my view, the only way to escape it and to bring things down is if people just stop for a minute and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to wait before I sink 10 grand into a watch. I'm just going to put myself on the list and wait to actually pay 10 grand, not pay 12, 13, 14 for a watch that the company that makes it believes is only worth 10 grand. So yes, overall, I would say I'm against it. And then we have from Alex Maier, what do you think about watch flippers? First off, on the one hand, playing devil's advocate and being really, really as objective as I can, listen, there are people who are turning X amount of money into X plus Y amount of money without breaking the law. So for that, credit where credit's due. If you can find a legal way to make money, then why not? But as a watch collector, as a watch enthusiast, I can't stand flippers because they don't contribute anything to the watch culture, to the watch hobby, apart from further inflating prices. A watch flipper, by definition, pretty much will buy a watch, sometimes at retail, but at least buy it at a lower price, and then won't wear it or will wear it very little so that it stays in as pristine condition as possible to maximize its value, and will then sell it at a markup. And that does nothing for the watch hobby apart from push the prices up further because it's reinforcing the notion that that watch will sell for more, that that watch is an investment. And I draw a clear delineation between that, for example, and a proper gray market dealer or a proper pre-owned dealer. Because they will sell watches from other brands, they'll sell other models, they don't just sell the ones that appreciate in value. So they're contributing to the hobby in general. They're also independent businesses. They hire people. They actually contribute to society and to the community of watches in general by, circulating those other pre-owned watches that a lot of us really like. But flippers do nothing for it. They're just out there making a quick buck. They do nothing for the culture. They do nothing but just take watches out of the hands of a potential collector, out of a potential enthusiast, potential person who just wants a watch. Someone who loves Patek Philippe, who loves the Nautilus for its story, for its design, for all of its redeeming qualities, apart from its resale value. They might be someone who, they've worked hard, they've got that $30,000 to sink in a watch, and they go into a Patek boutique and they say no because we don't have one, because we sold it to a flipper. Fuck out of here. Seriously. I got no time for flippers. And then the last question for today's video is from Nina Abroad. Nina, thank you for asking another question and for commenting and for following the channel as well. Shout out to you. Nina asks, how can I get an AP Royal Oak Steel Sports blue dial? Well, we've been talking about in-demand watches, and the AP Royal Oak in steel with a blue dial is one of the most in-demand watches that there is. Specifically, the 41mm Royal Oak self-widening or automatic, or the 39mm Royal Oak Jumbo, both of them in steel. Now, I'm going to take your question extremely literally, and it is that you want a Royal Oak in steel with a blue dial. No reason why you have to get either of those two. Instead, I think there's tons of variations on the Royal Oak, most of them in the pre-owned market, that you can get for less than the retail price of a Royal Oak. Because everyone will tell you right away, okay, if you want a Royal Oak with a blue dial, pay a premium, get on a long-ass waiting list, build a relationship with your AD by buying a lot of watches. And yes, those are valid ways to get it. But I'm assuming you want something a little bit different to that because every other video says that. So I'm going to suggest look at some variations on the Royal Oak that still meet those criteria, still have all the magic, the history, and the quality that goes into it, but that aren't just those two specific iterations of the Royal Oak that are the most popular. For example, if you have the wrist to pull it off, in the offshore line, especially in some of their early models, there's tons of variations that are still blue dial, still steel, full bracelet, that sell for less than 20,000 US. Some of the original chronographs from the offshore collection. Or even something much rarer like the offshore triple calendar. I guarantee you will never see another one of those on the wrist of someone else and you'll probably see 10 times as many standard Royal Oaks. So if you can pull off an offshore and you like the look of it, I would look at those, for example. And in both cases, you can find those for under 20,000 US, and they still have all the quality, all the magic about it. But let's say that you can't pull off that, and in fact you have smaller wrists. In that case, you can look at the 37mm Royal Oak. Again, still has all the look, and bear in mind that Royal Oaks tend to wear a little bit bigger than their nominal size, so a 37 might wear a bit more like a 38, a 39, in the same way the 39 wears a bit more like a 40, 41, you get the idea. So if you can pull it off because you have smaller wrists, then something like a 37mm, those are in lesser demand, which means the weight will be shorter at an AD, and the premium, depending on which market you're in, will probably not be as much as the premium you would have to pay on the 39mm jumbo or the standard 41mm Royal Oak. And then the last option is variants on the normal Royal Oak itself, specifically the dual time, which you can again get for around 20,000 US, but you get a second time zone for it, still get a blue dial, and you also get a dial pattern that isn't as big as the offshore, but it isn't as small as the tapisserie on the standard Royal Oak. It's sort of a mid-range. So again, something a little bit different. It's a dial design that's completely different to what we're used to seeing on Royal Oaks. Or also you have the chrono. Now the chrono at retail obviously costs more than the standard Royal Oak, but you can find them for around that sort of $30,000 mark on the pre-owned market, which is the starting point for the three-hander. So you're getting more value at least. So if you're gonna pay that premium, at least pay it and get more out of it. You get a chronograph. Again, it's a lot more distinctive than the three-hander, and you can still get it in blue, still in steel, full bracelet, all the magic. So hopefully those help. Hopefully some of those alternatives appeal to you. My advice would be look at the alternatives that still meet that criteria of blue, steel, Royal Oak, but then maybe play around with the complications, with the sizing, with the variant, so that you can also get those savings without buying those two specific models that happen to be quite hyped and overinflated on the pre-owned or gray market. So that's it for today. I've got a bunch of other questions to answer, but I'll answer those in a separate video. I hope I answered all of your questions. Let me know in the comments below if you have any follow-up questions, or if in watching this video, any of you have any new questions you want me to feature on a future Q&A, make sure you leave those in the comments as well. If you like this video, make sure you like it and share it. If you disagree with me and think I'm batshit crazy for not wanting to pay more than retail or for saying that Rolexes aren't rare, then put that in the comments as well. At the end of the day, it's always fun to have an educated discussion, and I'm more than open to seeing the other side. And if you want to see more pictures of watches, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Shah Lusso. And if you want to keep seeing more videos about watches, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can know when my next video comes up. And in any case, thanks for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.